It's Monday, March 15th, and this is now on HNN.
Did you see how crowded Waikiki Beach was this weekend?
History, it proves that I should be concerned.
Airline traffic hits a record, fueling concerns among health officials about spring breakers.
It may take a couple of weeks to get through those.
The state enters Phase 1C of its vaccination plan, expanding eligibility to those 65 and over.
Okay. Ready?
Ready?
The Oscar nominations are in. I'm Michelle Medina in Hollywood with a look at some Oscar firsts.
Plus, Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi outlines his priorities in his first State of the City address. These stories and more coming up on This Is Now.
We begin by taking you live to Mayor Rick Blangiardi, who's delivering his State of the City address right now. Let's listen in.
We have to do everything possible we can to get our businesses reopened. It is true that more businesses are able to operate, but not to their full potential. We want and need more. That said, Honolulu's case counts, positivity rates, and hospitalizations are the best in the country. No other city our size has numbers that compares to our numbers. And this week, we will achieve another milestone together as we approach having 500,000 vaccinations statewide. But this is only the starting point on our journey to a brighter future. And before talking about that brighter future, I must say thank you to all of the first responders, emergency management personnel, police officers, firefighters, EMS staff, and our National Guard members for their tireless work ethic and commitment to keeping the community safe. And thank you to all of our dedicated healthcare workers, with a special word of appreciation and deep gratitude to Queens Medical Center and Hawaii Pacific Health for the amazing job that they did in caring for patients and saving lives. You are a huge reason why Hawaii is the best in the nation. And I would also like to thank all the unsung heroes in our community. People like our custodians who are cleaning and sanitizing more frequently than ever before. Farm workers who continue to grow and harvest the food that goes on our tables. And the countless grocery store and retail employees who help make sure we have everything we need. And thank you to the caring volunteers who worked on the food lines, successfully distributing millions of pounds of food, and to the many organizations for their incredible generosity in collecting the donations that our families really needed. You know, I honestly don't have the words to adequately describe the positive difference your unselfish efforts have made to so many in need. My most sincere mahalo. I want to talk a little bit about our cabinet. I've been asked...
All right, there you have it. Mayor Rick Blangiardi giving his first ever State of the City address. If you want to continue watching this, just head over to KGMB or HNN digital platforms. We have a stream set up and going there. Good afternoon, everyone. Jonathan and Ashley here coming to you from the HNN Digital Center. We got some more breaking news just in, right, Ash?
Yep, the state health department released those coronavirus numbers. Let's get those to you right now. They're reporting 46 new cases today and 0 fatalities. The breakdown by island shows 7 cases on the Big Island, 15 on Maui, 22 on Oahu, and 2 residents were diagnosed out of state. Now, the next phase of Hawaii's vaccination plan begins today. Sammy Salina has more on who is eligible to make an appointment in Phase 1C.
So Phase 1C includes those 65 and up, other essential workers, and those with underlying health conditions. Here at Pier 2, they're one of the sites that are accepting this new category.
Continuing to take 70 and older, 75 and older as well, of course. and essential workers. There's quite a list there, so I'm not going to list those off. But then folks with selected severe chronic health conditions, which includes people who have kidney disease severe enough to require dialysis, people who have heart and lung disease severe enough to require oxygen, and people who have to go to an infusion center for medications like cancer, chemotherapy, or other infusions.
Opportunities for those 65 and older and others in Phase 1C are available through HawaiiCovid19.com and from healthcare providers around the state. Right now, DOH is encouraging kupuna and those with health conditions to sign up, but you can sign up if you're an essential worker still. DOH said remaining essential workers includes people who work in hotels and hospitality, food service, banking and finance, transportation, construction, media, logistics, information technology, and more. However, those working in restaurants, travel industry, and bars may be vaccinated before others in Phase 1C. The head of the Healthcare Association of Hawaii says that's because those workers are interacting with the public regularly.
And so they are being prioritized. But after we get through the high-risk individuals, the three categories that I just mentioned, then we'll be going just by reverse age bands in 5-year increments because disease status is highly correlated with age. And so we want to get to those individuals who are older and just go through each of the age groups in 5-year bands.
Here at HPH's Pier 2 vaccination site, essential workers are able to sign up for the vaccine if they fit in that category. It really just depends on which clinic you go to, and you want to check that information on each individual site. Sammy Solina for This Is Now.
Thank you, Sammy. Now, the weekend brought another milestone in the nation's vaccination effort. Nearly 3 million shots given in one day. That's a new record. Now, this as more reopenings begin today and airline traffic hits a record of its own, and this is drawing new criticism and concern from health officials.
Now take a look at this video I shot yesterday at Waikiki Beach. It was packed like I haven't seen it in almost a year. Spring break travelers are here. Just Saturday, more than 26,000 people arrived in the state. Just over 25,000 participated in the state's pre-testing program. The vast majority were visitors, a total of 21,651 to be exact. Most of the arrivals are staying on Oahu. So that's good news for the local tourism industry and businesses as travel increases. However, as more states relax restrictions, health experts are warning that we still need to be very careful. Maskless spring breakers packed beaches across the mainland too, as a record number of U.S. travelers passed through the airports. Here's NBC's Tom Costello.
This morning, vaccinations are picking up as coronavirus cases nationwide are slowing down. Now, more than a quarter of all adults have received at least one dose of vaccine, including a record 2.98 million in one day alone. But while the 7-day case average is continuing downward, the nation's top infectious disease expert is still urging caution.
Don't spike the ball on the 5-yard line. Wait until you get into the end zone. And we're not in the end zone yet.
Still, despite the warning, a growing number of states are relaxing restrictions. From California, where many counties, including LA, can welcome guests back inside at restaurants, gyms, and movie theaters today.
It gives us more chance to actually start paying our bills.
To Minnesota, where bars and restaurants are now operating at 75% capacity, gyms at 50%, salons, no limit.
We're winning. We're winning, and this thing's coming to an end.
Air travel also showing signs of rebounding. On Friday, U.S. airport passenger levels hit their highest since March of 2020, though still down 38% over pre-pandemic levels. The uptick in travel comes as health officials are raising concerns over spring breakers, with images like these of crowded beaches and news that tickets to all 4 Disney theme parks in Orlando are sold out this week. Meanwhile, the CDC is studying whether to cut social distancing guidelines in half. That after a new statewide study of Massachusetts schools found 3 feet of distance is just as safe as 6 feet with precautions. And overnight, a powerful tribute in a former epicenter of the virus. Images of COVID victims projected onto the Brooklyn Bridge to help mark 1 year since coronavirus took its deadly toll in New York City.
Japan is limiting the number of inbound arrivals from foreign countries to less than 2,000 passengers a day. The change comes as cases of COVID variants surge in the country. The government ordered foreign airlines to keep arrivals to below 100 people per flight. All Nippon Airways and Japan Airlines were asked to control arrivals to 3,400 a week. Here's what CBS travel editor Peter Greenberg had to say about these developments.
1/3 of all global destinations are closed to us. That's 69 destinations out of 217 worldwide, according to the United Nations World Tourism Authority or World Tourism Organization. That's 30 in Asia, 15 in Europe, 11 in Africa, among many others. A little bit of good news coming, and that is the Ministers of Tourism of Greece and the UK announced that Greece is going to open their borders on May 14th to foreign travelers. The UK is going to start opening their borders on the 17th. You would think that other countries would follow suit. It's interesting. The EU, forget the United Kingdom for a second, thank you, Brexit, but the EU wasted no time with all their countries acting in unison to ban us from coming. But in terms of reopening, we're seeing some defections now. One at a time, they're starting to open.
New at noon, Kauai's police chief, Todd Raybuck, issued an apology today for comments he made mocking Asians.
The comments I made in July 2020 and November 2019 were not made with the intent to come across as discriminatory or to humiliate and hurt others. In hindsight, I recognize that regardless of my intent, my words have caused people pain. I look forward to the opportunity to apologize directly to those who have been hurt by my words and hope that we may repair our relationships moving forward.
The Garden Island newspaper says a Kauai Police Commission investigation found Raybuck violated county discrimination policies and created a hostile working environment for an officer based on race. The paper says Raybuck's actions included, quote, squinting of the eyes and bowing of the head up and down. The police chief says he will accept the commission's decision on his discipline.
I'm disappointed that my actions brought undeserved scrutiny on my police department. I'm disappointed that as a county leader, I've not been the best example for my employees to follow. And I'm disappointed that my family has had to witness and endure the fallout from my mistakes.
I want to stick with the Garden Isle news because you just returned from covering severe weather for several days.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you, what were some of the sights you saw while out there covering this big major news event?
Right, so the landslide in Hanalei happened on Thursday morning. And, when we saw that drone video, initially we thought, wow, this is going to take a long time to clean up. But on Friday, we went with DOT on a tour and we were able to get up close to the top of the landslide as well as where all that debris fell onto Kuhio Highway just before the bridge. And I have to tell you, the road was solid still. And you can see from these photos from DOT yesterday that cleanup is already underway and they're pretty much done with removing the debris. Now, crews still need to install barriers. They need to install a rock fence and a barrier on the downslope. And they also found an old irrigation tunnel dating back to the 1800s in the mountainside. Now, officials don't know where the water is coming from, but they say it was pumping out water and made the landslide worse. So they say they'll probably have to create some kind of culvert or some kind of system so that the water does not cause problems in the future. Now, DOT did say they are aiming to reopen one lane of Kuhio Highway for emergency use this week. Initially, they said Tuesday, so we'll see what they say today if this is actually happening tomorrow. But they did say 3 months, estimated 3 months to fully reopen Kuhio Highway again.
Still impressed with that dirt removal they've done so far. I also wanted to ask you about the livelihoods that have been impacted by these floods. They saw it once before in 2018 and now again this past week. What's going on with the recovery efforts there?
Right, so the theme, the common theme is that we learned a lot from 2018, a lot of lessons learned. So when this happened, the community was ready and they rallied instantly. Now they had deliveries of supplies and food already going that day from Princeville to Hanalei because it's, the highway is the only way in and out of Hanalei and to Haena. So they were going right away with all those deliveries. And there was also, this is video from the South Shore. There was really bad flooding from Koloa to Hanapepe. That's the highway. That's the main highway in Kalaheo. And a lot of people still dealing with cleanup. This is one woman's car.
Wow.
Her car was halfway underwater at one point. And, just more video of the supplies and the donations just coming in for all those residents impacted on the North Shore.
Well, great reporting out there, and I really appreciate you. And really glad you're back here at the H&N Digital Center staying dry. You guys want to turn it over to Billy V for an update on the weather?
Thank you very much. Billy B sitting in for Guy Hockey. Let's show you the forecast as things continue in a counterclockwise motion. You can see that the rains are coming up from the south for Hawaii Island. They're coming from the northeast for the islands of Kauai and Niihau. As we put this into motion, you can see that we're going to have continuous rain showers with us just because there's just that moisture that is there in the trade wind flow, and it continues all the way through the week. So at some point in time, passing showers, but that's a good thing. At least the showers are on the move. But for today, a flash flood watch is in effect statewide. That's because there is still the potential for flooding because there's so much saturation of water into the ground. We also have high surf advisories in effect for the north and the east facing shores. You can see the numbers there. East side 9 to 12 on the slow decline. And finally, let's go ahead and show you real quickly, county by county. Again, we'll show you northern part of the state, breezy, that's Kauai Niihau. Go over to the right-hand side of the screen, Big Island, chance of thunderstorms, partly sunny skies, and of course you've got a little bit of a mixture of weather in between for Oahu and Maui County. Get the latest on air, online, on your mobile device, and at hawaiinewsnow.com.
The USGS is urging Big Island residents who live near Mauna Loa to revisit eruption plans. Mauna Loa is not erupting and remains at volcano alert level advisory. This alert level does not mean that an eruption is imminent or that progression to an eruption from the current level of unrest is certain. This month, more than 180 small magnitude earthquakes were recorded beneath the upper elevations of Mauna Loa. Most of these occurred at depths of less than 4 miles. GPS measurements show continued slow summit inflation consistent with magma supply to the volcano's shallow storage system. A slight increase in the rate of inflation at the summit that began in January is continuing. Gas concentrations and temperatures at both the summit and at the sulfur cone on the southwest rift zone remain stable, and webcams show no changes to the landscape.
So when people think of sea level rise, they usually think of coastal erosion. However, recent computer modeling studies indicate that coastal wastewater infrastructures, which include things like sewer lines and cesspools, is likely to flood with groundwater as sea level rises. A new study from UH is the first to provide direct evidence of just that happening on Oahu. The study was led by postdoctorate researcher Trista McKenzie, who I talked to this morning.
When the seawater enters, you actually get an increase in the groundwater level, and we have a lot of infrastructure built into the ground, such as cesspools and sewer lines. So then if this groundwater level rises, then we actually also might see some inundation of this wastewater infrastructure that then can reach our coastal waters, which isn't ideal.
And this is something we've known has been happening and does happen from time to time, that inundation of like cesspool water and the sewage water. It happened last week in several places. What is the concern of what you're seeing, though, in your research? It's that climate change and flooding factors could contribute to this more, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So anytime that we have, a process that causes an increase in this groundwater level or just brings in more water to the system, so, like we saw last week, rainfall can also cause this process. It just becomes more of a concern because we might have more of a persistent inundation stories. So cesspools may become more frequently or permanently inundated, and that just means that this connection between the coastline and this infrastructure that we really don't want to be discharging to the coast might just increase.
Let's talk about how you're doing your research in the areas that have been impacted the most that you're finding. Can you talk about that?
For sure. So the way we did our most recent research is we went out during spring tides, particularly the ones in the summer, because those tend to be the ones with the highest water level. And we're using chemical tracers that are in the water to track both groundwater and then also pharmaceuticals to trace wastewater. And we're just looking at how these vary over a tidal cycle from low to high tide. We targeted coastal waters in Waikiki, the Alawai Canal, and then also looked at the storm drain situation in Mapunapuna. Because we wanted to really, I think a lot of people are aware that it floods a lot in Mapunapuna when there's heavy rain or during high tides. And we kind of want to see, well, what's actually in this water? And we were quite surprised to find out that there's a lot of groundwater coming out at high tide from the storm drains.
If you could look into your crystal ball, if you had one, what's the real problem if nothing happens, if nothing's done? What could we see happen to our coastlines to our infrastructure if nothing is done about this?
It's not going to be a pretty picture. There are multiple directions to take this from, but at a minimum, I think we will see a flooded Waikiki, and that will be a challenge on its own. A lot of the coastal areas might become a lot more difficult to habit, to be there, to have people's homes there. And we're going to see a much greater increase in the loss of our beaches and water that you're not really going to want to get into because it'll be contaminated.
Beep, 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 beep. Alert, alert. In case you're hearing beeping, our main studio is under major construction right now. So if you're hearing a little bumping around over there, that's what it is.
Not distracting at all.
No, not at all.
We're great.
But let's talk about the Grammys.
Okay. Yeah. Did you guys watch the Grammys last night? Well, women made history. So Beyonce broke the record for the most Grammy wins ever by a female artist. Taylor Swift became the first woman to win 3 different Album of the Year awards, and Billie Eilish became the 3rd artist to win back-to-back Record of the Year prizes. Now, with COVID protocols in place, artists performed on multiple stages, and only the nominated artists and their guests were allowed in the area where awards were given out. Now, for many, it was their first live performance in a year, and calls for racial justice took center stage in both the performances and winning songs.
Very cool night.
Yeah, and nominations for the 93rd Academy Awards are out for a year when the pandemic had most movie lovers streaming the contenders on the small screen at home. There are some nomination firsts, and a black and white epic about old Hollywood leads the pack. This is Nichelle Medina reporting from Hollywood.
Please call me Mac.
David Fincher's Hollywood epic Mank about Citizen Kane screenwriter Herman Mankiewicz leads the Oscar race with 10 nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor for Gary Oldman.
I don't see your name in lights.
The late Chadwick Boseman picked up a posthumous Best Actor nomination for his role in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Rounding out the category are Riz Ahmed in Sound of Metal, Anthony Hopkins for The Father, and Stephen Yeun for Minari. Minari, The Father, Sound of Metal, and Mank will compete for Best Picture against Promising Young Woman, Nomadland, Judas and the Black Messiah, and The Trial of the Chicago 7.
I'm just houseless.
For the first time, 2 women, Nomadland's Chloe Zhao and Promising Young Woman's Emerald Fennell, are nominated for Best Director. They go up against Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, Fincher, and Thomas Vinterberg for another round.
This year's slate of acting nominees is more diverse than ever, with 9 of 20 acting nominations going to people of color, including Viola Davis.
I'm on my way. The Oscar winner becomes the most nominated black actress ever, picking up her 4th nomination for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. She'll face off in the Best Actress category against Andra Day for The People vs. Billie Holiday, Carey Mulligan from Promising Young Woman, Nomadland's Frances McDormand, and Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman. Nichelle Medina, CBS News, Hollywood.
Exciting stuff, and I haven't seen many of those movies,
I know,
actually.
so many I want to see.
Yeah, definitely. You guys, so here's what we are talking about.
Oh!
This is what happened over the weekend at our H&N's main studio. Yeah, that's Scott Humber.
News director?
Yeah.
Going Office Space on the anchor desk.
Exactly. This is going to be going on for several weeks, so you'll be hearing some beeping and things like that from time to time, but the end result promises to be amazing, and I cannot wait for it. That's the leftovers of what Scott was doing there to our news desk. It was quite a lot of work they put in over the weekend, so really appreciate our whole engineering staff and those managers that came in and helped remove it. You guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now. You guys have a great rest of your day.